Look at the world around you. Really look at it. It is beautiful, yes. There are sunsets and smiles and galaxies. But there is also something else. Something dark. There are cancer wards filled with children. There are wars where the innocent die. There are earthquakes that swallow entire cities in seconds. The Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky once asked a terrifying question in his book, The Brothers Karamazov. He asked, if the ticket to heaven requires the tear of a single innocent child, would you accept that ticket? His answer was, no, I return the ticket. This is the raw emotion we all feel. If there is a God, and if he is all-powerful and all-good, then why does this exist? Why did he create a world that screams in pain? This is called the problem of evil. It is the single strongest argument against the existence of God. Even the most devout believers have looked up at the sky in tears and asked, why? Why are you silent? Epicurus, the Greek philosopher, logically trapped us with this riddle. Is God willing to prevent evil, but not able? Then he is not omnipotent. Is he able, but not willing? Then he is malevolent. Is he both able and willing? Then whence cometh evil? Today, we are going to face this question head-on, not with blind faith, but with logic, because a faith that cannot handle questions is a faith that cannot survive the storm. To understand why there is darkness, we first have to understand what darkness actually is. Here is a scientific question. Does cold exist? You might say yes. You feel it in the winter. But physically? No. Physics tells us that cold is not a thing. You cannot measure cold. You can only measure heat. Heat is energy. Cold is just the absence of heat. Even at absolute zero, there is no cold energy. There is just zero heat. Does darkness exist? No. You can measure light. You can study its wavelength. You can calculate its speed. But you cannot measure darkness. Darkness is simply what happens when light is not there. St. Augustine, one of the greatest minds in history, applied this logic to evil. He argued, evil has no existence of its own. God did not create evil, just like the sun does not create darkness. Evil is what happens when you remove good. It is a hole in the fabric of reality. It is a lack, a privation. Rot is just the lack of health. Hate is just the lack of love. Ignorance is just the lack of knowledge. So, the question changes. God did not create monsters. He created creatures with the capacity for good. But when that capacity is empty, the monster appears. Evil is a parasite. It needs the good to exist, just like rust needs metal to exist. Now, let's go deeper. We must divide evil into two categories. The first is moral evil. This is the evil caused by us. Murder, theft, war, genocide, broken trust. Skeptics ask, why didn't God stop Hitler? Why didn't he stop the thief before he stole? Imagine a world where God stops every evil act. Every time a man tries to pick up a weapon, his hand turns to jelly. Every time someone tries to lie, their voice disappears. Every time someone tries to hurt another, a force field stops them. In that world, there is no evil, but there is also no humanity. We would be robots. We would be sophisticated puppets. Is a robot good because it doesn't kill? No, it's just a machine executing code. For good to be real, for love to be real, the potential for evil must also exist. Think about a love potion. If you force someone to love you using magic or programming, is that love? No, that is slavery. Love, by definition, must be free. And freedom means, I must have the ability to say no to you. God wanted companions, not slaves. He wanted children, not robots. And to be a companion, you must have the choice to walk away into the darkness. Most of the suffering in this world, poverty, starvation, war, is not God's fault. There is enough food on earth to feed everyone. But we hoard it. We draw borders. We drop bombs. That is not a failure of God's power. That is a failure of our choices. But what about the things we didn't choose? What about natural evil? A tsunami kills thousands of innocent people. A child is born with a genetic disease. No human chose that. So is God attacking us. This is where we must understand the nature of a physical world. We live in a universe governed by fixed laws. Gravity, thermodynamics, tectonics. Take tectonic plates, for example. These shifting plates cause earthquakes and tsunamis. They cause death. So why did God create them? Because without tectonic activity, this planet would be dead. Tectonic plates recycle carbon. They regulate the Earth's temperature. Without them, the atmosphere would vanish and life would be impossible. The same gravity that makes a man fall off a cliff keeps the atmosphere attached to the Earth so we can breathe. The same water that quenches thirst can drown a lung. You cannot have one without the other. If God intervened every time a rock was about to fall, he would have to break the laws of physics every second. The universe would cease to be a stable place. It would be a chaotic dream where gravity works 1 minute and stops the next. For us to exist as biological beings, the universe must follow rules. And sometimes, those rules result in collision. Pain, in this sense, is not malice. It is the cost of having a physical reality. But there is a deeper reason. The philosopher John Hick proposed the idea of soul-making. He argued that this world was never meant to be a paradise. It was meant to be a school, a gymnasium for the soul. If the world was perfect, if there was no pain, no loss, no danger, then how would we learn courage? Courage requires danger. How would we learn compassion? Compassion requires suffering to empathize with. How would we learn patience? Patience requires difficulty. If God put us in a world with no sharp edges, we would be like spoiled children, soft, weak, undeveloped. Just as a parent allows a child to fall while learning to walk, God allows us to stumble. Not because he enjoys the fall, but because he knows that the walking is worth it. We look at life and say, I want to be happy. God looks at us and says, I want you to be strong. We want comfort. He wants character. And character is only forged in the fire. The diamond cannot be polished without friction, nor can the man be perfected without trials. Now, let's turn the table on the atheist. If you say, the world is evil and unjust, I have to ask you, compared to what? How do you know a line is crooked? If you have no idea what a straight line looks like, C.S. Lewis, who was an atheist before he became a believer, struggled with this. He wrote, my argument against God was that the universe seemed so cruel and unjust. But how had I got this idea of just and unjust? A man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. If the universe is just random atoms, if we are just accidental biology, then evil does not exist. A lion eating a zebra is not evil. An earthquake killing people is not evil. It's just matter moving. It is just unlucky. But you feel outraged. You feel that it is wrong. Where does that standard of right come from? The moment you complain about evil, you are admitting that there is a standard of good that the universe has violated. You are admitting that human life has objective value. But matter doesn't have value. Rocks don't have rights. So, the very fact that we recognize evil is proof that we know, deep down, that this is not how things should be. Our outrage is proof of a moral lawgiver. Finally, we must admit our limitation. We are watching a movie through a keyhole. We see only a tiny fraction of the picture. Imagine you are looking at a beautiful Persian rug, but you are looking at the back of it. All you see are tangled knots, loose threads, and chaotic colors. You would say, what a mess. The weaver has made a mistake. But if you turn the rug over, you see that every knot, every dark thread, was necessary to create the beautiful pattern on the other side. We live on the back of the rug. We see the knots. We see the pain. We see the chaos. But we do not see the final picture. Every tragedy we face, every tear we cry, is a thread in a much larger design that we cannot yet comprehend. Just because we cannot see the purpose of the pain right now, does not mean there is no purpose. So why does evil exist? Because darkness defines the light. Because struggle defines strength. Because freedom is better than slavery. This world is not a hotel. It is a school. And in a school, the tests are difficult not because the teacher hates the students, but because he wants them to graduate. Evil is real, but it is not the final reality. It is the shadow that proves the light exists. We are not alone in the dark. The architect is building something out of us. And sometimes, to build a castle, you must first break the stone. But this mystery is too deep for just one video. This is only the beginning. We are embarking on a 5-part journey to uncover the full truth behind suffering, free will, and the limits of power. In the next episode, we will ask the terrifying question, why didn't God create us as perfect robots? Subscribe and join us as we explore the price of freedom. Think beyond.